Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our MISAD Bulletin, and we shall start with our headlines. Yemeni officials say fighting rages around Hodeidah airport. U.S. threatens more tariffs against China. Moving on to our details, starting with Sanaa's crisis. Fierce battles raged on Tuesday outside the airport of the Yemeni city of Hodeidah, pitting thousands of pro-government fighters backed by a Saudi-led coalition against Shiite Houthi rebels. Yemeni military officials said the United Arab Emirates-backed Amalek brigades, supported by airstrikes and naval shelling from the Saudi-led coalition, have been trying to storm the southern and western parts of the airport. However, the added landmines and Houthi snipers have been hindering efforts to get the airport under government control. It's worth mentioning that government forces have been trying for days to capture the Kilo 16 road to trap the Houthi rebels inside Hodeidah and the western coast. On to Iraqi-Syrian borders, Iraq condemned on Tuesday the targeting of pro-Syria paramilitary troops in eastern Syria after an airstrike killed mostly Iraqi Shiite forces deployed to fight the Islamic State group. In a statement, the Iraqi Foreign Ministry expressed rejection and condemnation of airstrikes targeting troops deployed in areas where they are fighting Daesh, whether in Iraq or Syria. The statement also called for continuing coordination between the U.S.-led coalition and troops on the ground to support them in the fight. Iraqi Shiite forces and Syria accused on Monday the U.S.-led coalition of conducting the Sunday airstrikes along the Iraq-Syria border, killing at least 22 fighters and wounding 12 others. In Syria, Syrian army helicopters have dropped leaflets over rebel-held parts of the country south calling on civilians to help the military clear the area of militants. The government-controlled Syrian Central military media said on Tuesday the leaflets were dropped over the rebel-held villages of Da'al and Itta. From another aspect, Syrian government forces have been massing troops ahead of a possible attack on the region that borders Jordan and the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Meanwhile, President Bashar al-Assad said last week that contacts are ongoing between the Russians, the U.S., and the Israelis. On to Turkish polls. Turkish Prime Minister Binali Yildirim is quoted as saying that 30,000 Syrians who acquired Turkish nationality are eligible to vote in Sunday's presidential and parliamentary elections. The Turkish media said Yildirim made the comments on Tuesday in the city of Izmir. This came after Turkey, which is hosting 3.5 million Syrian refugees, announced in 2016 that it would begin granting citizenship to Syrians. Meanwhile, voting at Turkish diplomatic missions abroad for expatriate Turks ends on Tuesday. Then, voting at border gates and airports will continue until all polls close on Sunday afternoon. Away from politics, an engine burst into flames during the landing of a Russian plane carrying the Saudi Arabian soccer team to a World Cup host city, but nobody was hurt. Russia's Federal Agency for Air Traffic said in a statement on Tuesday that the Airbus airplane flying from St. Petersburg to the southern city of Rostov-on-Don landed safely on Monday evening and no emergency procedures were required. The agency also said the aircraft landed with both of its engines working and the passengers disembarked normally, adding that an investigation into the incident has begun. Meanwhile, Russia Airlines, the flight's operator, said that the malfunction was likely caused by a bird strike. And moving on to our economic news, President Donald Trump directed the U.S. trade representatives to prepare new tariffs on $200 billion in Chinese imports on Monday as the two nations moved closer to a potential trade war. President Trump, in a statement, said China apparently has no intention of changing its unfair practices related to the acquisition of American intellectual property and technology. Trump added, these tariffs will go into effect if China refuses to change its practices and also if it insists on going forward with the new tariffs that it has recently announced. On the other hand, China warned on Tuesday it will retaliate against President Donald Trump's latest tariff threat. The Commerce Ministry criticized Trump's order to prepare tariffs on $200 billion of Chinese goods as blackmail. In a forcefully worded statement, it said, if the U.S. side becomes irrational and issues a list, China will have to adopt comprehensive measures in quantity and quality in order to make strong countermeasures. Meanwhile, on Saturday, Beijing announced 25% tariffs on $34 billion of U.S. imports, including soybeans and beef, effective on July 6, in response to Trump's tariff hike on a similar amount of Chinese goods. And finally, global stock markets fell on Tuesday after U.S.-Chinese dispute escalated after a tariff hike on an additional $200 billion of Chinese goods. Germany's DAX was down a sharp 1.3% to 12,673, and France CAC 40 fell 1.1% to 5,394. London FTSE 100 lost 0.4% to 7,598. Wall Street was poised for heavy losses, with the future for the Dow Jones Industrial Average of 1.3% and that for the Standard & Poor's 500 index down 1.1%. Moreover, the losses were even heavier in Asia, where the Shanghai Composite Index fell 3.8% to 907.82, and Tokyo's Nikkei 225 retreated 1.8% to 278.48. And before ending our news, let's take another look at the most important headlines for today. Yemeni officials say fighting rages around Hodeidah airport. U.S. threatens more tariffs against China. And this was the end of our Misa bulletin for today. Thank you for watching.